step in for him when he eventually gets hurt. So, we'll see. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It's a late round pick, taking shots. At the very least, if we get a returner out of it, I'm happy.
Moving into the 6th round, the next pick was a defensive tackle out of Mississippi. It's DJ Jones, and he's more of your nose tackle role. So he will back up Earl Mitchell and hopefully supplant him as soon as possible. Simply because, it's Earl Mitchell. Got a decent sized contract for kind of average stats his entire career. So we'll see what happens. He's okay. I don't have much to say about DJ Jones other than the fact that, hopefully he becomes the starting nose tackle. He's a 6th round pick, so, I don't really know too much about him at all, but I know that he certainly has a role on this defense, at least in their base defense. And if he eventually becomes a starter as a 6th round pick, that's great. And if he's a bust, it doesn't work out, again, it's a 6th round pick, who cares?
Well, he's from the SEC, and he got drafted from the defensive line. To me, that means he's got to be a pretty tough guy. So if he doesn't stick, fine. If he does, even better.
Gotcha. Well, the next pick, 6th round, they got a linebacker out of Utah. It's Pita. Let's just say he only has one name, and it's Pita, because I have no idea how to pronounce his last name. Do you want to give it a go?
Oh, I'm on the clock here. Ta'umo Pena?
Let's go with that.
Ta'umo Pena? I don't know.
So Pita is he's gonna be an outside linebacker or Leo role, and that's the defensive end pass rushing role. He might be your, I don't want to say Bruce Irvin type, but at 1 year Seattle tried to put Bruce Irvin at a linebacker role and have him rush from the linebacker spot instead of the defensive end. Needless to say, it didn't really work. They switched him back to the D-line, and then he eventually went to Oakland. So maybe 6th round pick. Maybe he turns out to be the excellent pass rusher that we need at the Leo role when Solomon Thomas moves into the 3 technique on passing down. So maybe he turns out to be it, or maybe he turns out to be a depth pick and a special teams player. Maybe he's a gunner. Maybe he's your primary kick blocker guy. Is that a gunner? I don't know.
No.
Oh. Whatever the kicking blocking guy is that. Maybe he becomes that. Maybe he becomes nothing. Who knows? But it is what it is. There's a pick. It was a position that they could use some extra bodies, so they went with it.
Out of a 6th round pick, this is kind of what I look for. A guy who does one thing really well. We need pass rush help. I think this, from what I've heard, I don't really know the player a lot, but they say this might have been a little too rich for his blood. But I'll take it. It's a guy who does a thing that we need well. We'll work on trying to get him better at those other aspects and trying to make him a rotational player. If that's what he ends up being, I'm pretty happy to save somebody else some snaps for part of the season. So, yeah.
And if he beats out Tank Carradine for a roster spot, I'll be very happy. With their final pick, 7th round pick, they picked up a cornerback, or let's just say defensive back, out of the University of Miami. His name is Adrian Colbert, or Colbert, I don't know. He might be fancy. I'm not going to just say his name is one thing or another. So they picked him up. I know nothing about him, so I'm just going to leave that to you because Cameron is quite the University of Miami fan. What'd you say?
I would say that. I'm all about the Hurricanes. Been there through some of the good and a lot of the bad. That's for another of these YouTubes. My history as a Miami fan, but honestly, I was a big Corn Elder fan. He's been my college football boyfriend for the past 2 seasons. I give myself 2 a year, 2 college football boyfriends that I get to have. And guys that I'm just in the tank for no matter what. So I think Corn Elder is probably the star to me from the secondary. Colbert is sort of the more steady Eddie. You didn't really hear his name as much in a positive or negative way. He wasn't really getting beat, not really making a whole bunch of splash plays either. I think he's a solid pick. The 49ers have kind of a history of picking players from Miami, so it's nice to see that continue. I think there's a spot for him on our team with the lack of quality cornerbacks that we have. And it seems that most of the cornerbacks we have are kind of hybrid guys, like nickel/safety corners. And this guy is a true outside cornerback, knowing the position well and just how to be solid and not give up the big play, which is something that we definitely need in our secondary. So I'm very, very pleased that we capped off our draft with drafting a player from the youth.
Yeah. And if he makes the team, great. I mean, as a 7th round pick, I don't want to say rarely make the team.
There is no other thing. He will make the team.
Yeah, okay. So he will make the team. And, he'll provide backup safety between Ward, Reed, and Tart. I mean, maybe there's a spot for an extra safety, or he'll back up as a quarterback.
Get Robinson out of there.
You don't like Robinson?
I'm not a big Robinson fan. No.
I was thinking maybe Dante Johnson is at risk, and maybe they get Colbert get his spot, or even what is it, Reeser or Aker? I think it's Reeser they still have. I mean, I've never been too pleased with them, and Reeser's never had a great year. So maybe Colbert takes his job. So we'll see if he makes the team, or rather when he makes the team.
Yeah.
He'll be a good backup, and if he contributes at all, I would say as a 7th round pick, that's a bonus. So we'll see.
So that's going to do it for the analysis of the 49ers pick in a vacuum. Now we're going to kind of broaden it out a little bit. So what is the first question up next?
So I wrote down, I don't know if you had it to me.
I didn't really write the questions. I remember my answers, but if we forget, we can just spitball it.
So I wrote down, who has the worst draft?
Okay, I'll go first on this one. I think our answer is going to be the same. I don't know how anyone could think any different. It's going to be the Chicago Bears. What are you doing? You have a myriad of needs, and you addressed none of them. You paid a dude $15 million a year to be your quarterback, and then you go and draft a quarterback at number 2. You cannot, in this day and time, take a quarterback at number 2 and expect to sit him and let him learn. There's going to be heat on him from day one, especially by game 6, game 8 in the season. If things aren't going well, even if they are going well, people are going to want to see why you spent the money. Why did we lose these picks to go up and get this guy if we're not going to put him out there? And I feel my heart goes out to Mike Glennon because he just kind of got thrown to the wayside everywhere. He's kind of like the forgotten man. Yeah, you're going to start, but we're going to go get this other guy that we like better. And we like you, but not enough. They went ahead and they just picked players that were not necessarily bad players. They got some good value in their draft, but it just didn't address any of the needs that they really had pressing on the defense. And I don't think they helped John Fox save his job one bit.
Oh no, Ryan Pace and John Fox will be fired at some point during the season, or certainly after the season. They're done. This draft, is the nail in the coffin, because it was something where, I mean, if their goal, or actually it wasn't even they, it was Ryan Pace that made this decision for Trubisky. Apparently, according to reports, John Fox had no idea. He thought they were taking Solomon Thomas. So the fact that they traded up a bit with the 49ers, who weren't going to pick Trubisky at all, the fact that you traded away a 3rd round pick, a future second?
Yep.
A future second or a future 3rd, whatever it was. So then you traded a bunch of picks this year and then a pick next year to move up one spot with a team that wasn't going to take your guy at all is embarrassing. They finished the draft with like 5 picks. Yeah. And they have so many holes that they didn't even answer a majority of them. So I feel for Bears fans. And Mike Glennon, you mentioned all that stuff. He's getting $15 million. The other thing is they invited him to their draft party at Soldier Field. They're like, hey, be the face of our team at Soldier Field for this draft party. Meet and greet the fans because you're, QB1. And with our very first pick, we're going with your replacement. So try to live that one down. So I think this was a terrible draft. A close second, if we were to go different teams, I would say the Bengals. And here's number one. I would say getting John Ross when they have so many needs. It's like, okay, you just drafted Tyler Boyd last year. You probably could have waited in a deep wide receiver class. You probably could have waited a little bit later to pick up a wide receiver to pair with Green. And by the way, you have the worst offensive line. You just let your two best offensive linemen go in free agency. It is a weak offensive line class. Maybe go with them as early as you can. Instead, they completely ignore the offensive line. How are they going to do anything when they completely ignore the offensive line? And with their second pick, they picked up Joe Mixon, who, minus his off-the-field issues, would have been an amazing pick. But it's not just a minor off the field. We're not talking about one DUI here. He not only knocked...
Because that's minor.
Yeah, well, in this day and age. But no, we're talking about he punched a woman in the face and knocked her out. I watched the video many times. So I don't know. And it's not really punishment for him to be picked in the second round. It's like if you're going to send a message, teams need to avoid drafting him at all or until very late. But the fact is like, we won't take our first round, which will guarantee 5 years with us, but we'll take him in the second, which will guarantee 4 years with us. He's still going to be a millionaire. So I mean, it is what it is. And again, if he ends up being the number one running back, who's going to block for him? Who's going to create those holes for him? Because he can't do it himself, and they have no one else at offensive line. So that could have been an alternative, but really the Bears had it worse. So our next one that we're going with is best draft. So why don't you tell us the best draft?
Okay, so it was a three-way, not necessarily tie. There were three teams for me that were in the running for best draft, but the team that went ahead and pulled out for me was the Washington Redskins. I feel like they married need with value best of all. I can see them taking their picks and putting them to use right away. That's not my team. I'm a big fan of the Tony Kornheiser show, so if I was to say there was a team that I knew almost as well as the 49ers or second best, it would be the Washington Redskins. So I can see them putting their players in the slots that they belong, and I'm not even in their front office. Like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Video game.
My hand-eye coordination is not
So that's kind of a foreshadowing for another of our questions here, but I'm going to leave it with that short and sweet with the Redskins as my best draft from top to bottom.
Well, I also had a bit of a struggle to find who had the best draft, and I also thought of three teams, and I'll give you the two runners-up. I really liked what the Tennessee Titans did. I think they answered a lot of their needs, and they gave a ton of weapons for Mariota. I also really liked the San Diego Chargers draft. I think what they did is they went all in with Phillip Rivers, and they said, here's weapons, here's offensive linemen to protect you, let's go win the division. So they were the runner-ups, but actually I thought the team that had the best draft were the Dallas Cowboys, because they have a great offense, as we all saw this past season. And one thing they were weak on was the defense. And they ended up drafting a ton of defensive players. They started with a pass rusher in Taco Sharpton, and then they went with cornerbacks, with safeties, with defensive linemen. They answered every single position to try to get better on defense. And did I mention linebackers? They got linebackers too. So whether or not every player pans out is one thing, but I think they certainly knew what their weakness was and how they could hopefully become the NFC champions this next year. And in order to do so, they certainly need to strengthen their defense, and they did so with this draft. Whether or not it pans out, we'll see. I still think the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. They're just too good. But it would be interesting to see a Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and Bryant run defensive or Dallas Cowboys team go against them in the Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see if all these defensive players. They only picked 2 out of their. Let's see. Oh no, I didn't tell. I think it was 10. They only picked 2, both wide receivers. Another white guy, Ryan Switzer,
Gangsta white boy.
Yeah, he's believe it or not, a slot receiver out of North Carolina, and I can't remember the other receiver. But so they added.
It was I forget what his name is, but he's from Ohio State. Big receiver, big-bodied receiver from Ohio State.
Well, there you go. So they certainly added a little bit to their offense, but they have a great offensive line, obviously a great running back, very good quarterback. Was he the rookie of the year, or was it Elliott?
I believe it was Elliott.
So yeah, but still a very good quarterback. And they gave him a couple more weapons, but then they really strengthened their defense. So I really like what they did.
I think that's actually quite interesting because I don't see a lot of difference for me between the Bengals draft and the Cowboys draft. In terms of the only thing that makes the Bengals draft the worst to me and not the Cowboys is because the Cowboys actually address needs with their picks. And the reason why they're similar to me is the reason why I said I didn't mind our late round picks, because I feel like they got a lot of guys that are good at one thing and have a lot of holes in other areas. I just feel like those guys that were good at one thing were good at the one thing in the area they needed them to be good at. They're not really complete players. I feel like you've drafted 5. If you draft 5 defensive players, you have 3 playing on downs 1 and 2, and 2 playing on downs 3 and 4, or down 3 or whatever. And you might be able to do fine with that. That might work out for them. And again, I don't think their draft was bad, but I think they sort of got a lot of trick ponies. Maybe not one trick, but I feel like they got trick ponies. Whereas the Bengals, they kind of got one trick ponies that didn't address any need. They treated their draft like they were all luxury picks when the team had real needs.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So any Bauke draft is what they're saying. It's
Yeah.
all luxury picks when the team is a
Absolutely.
2 and 14 to roster.
you got a 14 somewhere, whether that be wins or losses.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next thing we want to discuss is the best first rounder. So why don't you start us off?
Are we doing best first rounder or first rounder that's going to have the most impact this year?
I don't know. This is your video, so you tell me.
So I took it like the first rounder that's going to have the most impact on their team. And for me, that is going to be, oh boy. I think I'm going to go with Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick of the Arizona Cardinals. I've seen them use Honey Badger in a similar way in that he sort of doesn't fit any bill. So they just kind of put him everywhere that he kind of fits in the situation that he fits. And Hassan Reddick is a larger version of that guy. Whether you're putting him at middle linebacker, outside linebacker, rush in, maybe even nickel, who knows. I think they'll find a way to use him. And his stats might not be the best, but I think he's going to have the plays that matter. They might be the difference between a win and a loss, getting out of there on third down, stopping a team, and like kind of crushing their souls. He's going to provide those plays, I think.
I actually also had Hassan Reddick as a guy. I think he's going to be the defensive player of the year. I think he's going to, or defensive rookie of the year, excuse me. I think he's going to feast wherever you put him. And he's got some veterans behind him with Honey Badger, and they lost Campbell to the Jaguars. But I think Reddick is just going to be on the line. He's going to be as a linebacker. Heck, he can even play some safety. So I think he's really going to fill out the stat sheet and really be a disruptive player on defense for the Cardinals while they try to compete for Super Bowl one last year before Palmer, Fitzgerald, and heck, even their coach might retire. So, I mean, who knows what this team will look like.
They're all going to be playing golf with Wilbon on the weekends after this season.
Who knows what they'll look like next year. But for this year, I think Reddick is a perfect fit because he'll be able to use all the skills he had. I mean, he came into Temple as a safety, and then they moved him to linebacker. He played some defensive line. I think he's going to use that versatility and be put anywhere and take care of business.
And I think I heard Hugh Jackson quoted as saying, "We will find a place for him on the offense as well." I don't know. Yeah.
All right. And then I would say, if you didn't ask, but rookie of the offensive rookie of the year, I would go with Christian McCaffrey.
There's definitely ample opportunity for him
Yeah.
to touch the ball on every single down.
Yeah. There is some concern. I guess Cam Newton doesn't really throw to running backs. He usually will look for his first couple options and then run the ball. So I don't know if McCaffrey will get a lot of catches out of the backfield, but he can certainly play receiver. And I guess with Kelvin, is it Kelvin Benjamin or is it Funchess that is now 900 pounds?
Kelvin Benjamin reported 900 pounds. Funchess also could be. They just haven't reported it yet.
So yeah, with both of his receivers now switching to the offensive line,
Which might be something better for him than what
Yeah.
he has currently on the offensive line.
yeah, he's going to need some guys that catch the ball. And their first two picks, McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel, are very dynamic players. They can play both running back and receiver. So I think he's got some weapons there. But I think the abilities of McCaffrey to run the ball and to catch it are really going to make him an intriguing offensive rookie of the year option, especially if everything else plays right for the Panthers, who just a few years ago were in the Super Bowl.
And the most intriguing, I guess, late round pick. And by late round, we're talking about day 3 of the draft. Who do we think is going to have the most impact in their first year? For myself, I went ahead and went with the marriage of player and team, and that is going to be Samaje Perine, picked in the 4th round by the Washington Redskins. I see him slotting right into that spot. Good evening to Rob Kelly. Hello to Samaje Perine. I see him getting 1,200 yards on the ground easily if he can supplant him early. He's a big bruiser back. Not a lot of flash to him, but he's durable, he's strong, he's big. He knows how to identify a hole and take as much advantage of it as his body will allow him to take.
With my late rounder, I went with a guy picked in the 5th round, and it's a tight end at the University of Michigan. That would be Jake Butt, and I really liked Butt, and I thought he was very good during his career with the University of Michigan, learning from one of the best coaches, one of my all-time favorites, Jim Harbaugh. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL late in his senior season this year, so that's what pushed him down to the 5th round. But he goes to the Denver Broncos, and I think that's a perfect place for him because they have an excellent mixture of veterans and young players. I think the reports say that Jake will be ready probably October. That's what they're hoping for. He's been doing really well with rehab. They should be ready to go by October. Hopefully that's the case. But I think Jake Butt will provide an excellent pass catcher and blocker, although he could certainly improve in that regard. But as certainly a good pass catcher for whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Simeon or whether they go with Lynch, or heck, they just drafted Chad Kelly with the very last pick in the draft. So maybe Chad Kelly is their quarterback of the future. But whoever it is, I think Jake Butt will provide an excellent tight end for. And I can certainly see him averaging about 600 yards, maybe 8-9 touchdowns a year with that high-powered offense. So we'll see what happens. But he's the guy that I keep my eye on as a late rounder who could possibly contribute a lot.
Is there anything else on the list, or did we cover it all?
I think we covered it all, at least what you text me multiple times. So yeah, again, I want to thank you for having me on. I hope this is recording. So if you're watching this, that means we didn't screw up this time.
Yeah. Early on, I did get up to make sure it was recording about 10 minutes into it. So
Yeah,
hopefully it's
so
still
hopefully
going
you
right
see
now.
this. But I'm excited. I'm intrigued to watch it myself to see how we sound. Hopefully, I'm not too nasally. But yeah, I'm really excited about the future, especially the future of the 49ers. Now they got the stink of Balky off of them and can finally look to the future. So I really liked their draft. I'd give it about a B plus. I don't know how you would grade it overall.
I give it a solid B. I did that Beathard pick just really grinds my gears.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, the key is we know what this was for. This was just the beginning of a rebuild or a build, considering how badly it was. So yeah, if they told us that, we're going to compete for Super Bowl this year, and here's the draft that we had, I'm like, okay, this isn't going to help us. There's a bunch of guys that need some work. But because they're saying, look, this is maybe 2-3 years before we compete, there's some guys on here that can contribute right away, but there's some other guys that do need 2 or 3 years. And this draft is the beginning of, I hope, success and good things to come. It will be a lot easier to watch on Sundays.
Yeah, I won't be turning the game off at halftime to take a nap for that 1 o'clock afternoon game, which we so often get slotted into.
Yeah.
So hope springs eternal, like I tell everyone I talk to for the football season, for anybody's team. We haven't lost yet, so we're just as good as everybody else.
Yeah. We're undefeated.
Yeah, we're undefeated. we're as good as the Patriots right now. Yeah. No one can say otherwise. All the stats say 0. Ours just might stay that a little bit longer. But anyway, thanks for rocking with me, and thanks for watching. Please give us some feedback about how you enjoy this. Maybe we try again to do it on the inside. When we recorded this initially, we were inside the house where there's not a lot of ambient noise, but there was a little bit of a ghost of a failure there. So let that air out, let the house air out, give it a nice smudge, and see if we can come back to that. So you can hit me up on any way you want. I've given my information before, the comments, whatever. Mike, go ahead and let people know where they can get a hold of you.
I'm on Twitter, MGGAnimal, or that's at MGGAnimal, obviously. But yeah, if you have questions, comments, concerns, hopefully this is recording, so you'll actually have questions, comments, concerns, unlike last time when you didn't even see it.
It was a really good recording, guys. Really good recording. Again, thanks for rocking with us and me. See you guys next time.
Please God be recorded.